Uncle Willie as a boy, I think he had two options in life. He had an option to go down the pit, or he had an option to be a football player.
Oh, he was a keep fit fanatic, Bill. He really was. He never drank or never smoked, and all he did was train. Bill said himself, he said, when I die, I'll die a fit man. He did. So it says a lot for his character, Bill. He was a very determined man.
And he recognised in the Liverpool people the same kind of community that he had back in Glenbuck among the miners.
The story regarding Bill Shankly when he came to Liverpool, he promised us that one day we'd be the greatest team in England, we'd be the best team in Europe, and one day we'd be the greatest team in the world. But prior to then, we'd never won the FA Cup.
Now I would say that his finest achievement does not come from the realms of how he succeeded in winning trophies. I think that was an inevitability, and lots of people win trophies. Lots of football clubs win trophies. For me, his finest achievement at Anfield was identifying football and Liverpool with the city itself and with the people itself. They suddenly became almost like one entity. And his finest, undoubtedly his finest achievement, was that he gave Liverpool people pride in themselves, and he was able to communicate with his people.
And the FA Cup was the big thing to a Liverpoolian. More than the European Cups, your Cup Winners' Cups, because they weren't out then. That wasn't the big thing anymore.
Job. Never mind the European Cup. That's virtually new. Winning the FA Cup's the hardest cup. It took 73 years for and I thought it was a terrible disgrace that would suffer the taunts of people saying you haven't won the cup yet.
When we were kids, and I supported Liverpool when I was 6 years of age, I could go around the city and say I was a Liverpoolian. You wear red and white, you play at Anfield, and we used to have Billy Little's our star player. We used to be known as Liverpool, because that was the only big three we had. That's all I ever had as a Liverpoolian. But when Shankly came along, he made sure that a Liverpoolian came something different. He could hold his head up high, he could have dignity, but we had to win the cup before we had that. Because when we were kids, people used to say to us, "Have you ever won the cup, lad?" We'd say no. He said, "If you haven't won the cup, forget it." I remember Liverpool beating Everton 4-0 in a cup match at Goodison. I went home happy, seen a few people I know to come out of a pub, even though I was a kid, I knew them. I called him over and said, 4-0, 4-0. And he came over to me and he said, "Son, have you ever won the FA Cup?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, don't buy. Come back when you won the FA Cup."
Now that was the greatest moment of my life, winning the cup. Not for me, but for the people in Liverpool.
The soccer war of the Rosy, Leeds versus Liverpool. The two teams making the traditional Wembley entrance. Leeds were on the left, immaculate in white. Pipped for the league championship on goal average, the Yorkshire Stars were out to win the greatest of all English sporting trophies, the FA Cup. And so were Liverpool. In control was referee Bill Clements, one of the best in the game. Liverpool kicked off. And it could have been dangerous to Liverpool if goalkeeper Lawrence hadn't been on the alert. So both goals were intact when half-time brought on the Marines. Liverpool fans would have preferred the Beatles, but that would have been taking sides. 22 very tired players on a heavy pitch. And now it was all Liverpool. First blood of the match went to Roger Hunt. St. John made no mistake this time. So the Marathon Cup final was all over, and Liverpool were the winners. And what a happy man was Ron Yates, leading his team up to the royal box. This is the triumph every footballer dreams of. To reach Wembley, they'd beaten West Brom, Stockport, Bolton, Leicester and Chelsea. And now the cup was theirs to take home and make the Mersey beat as it's never done before.
The difference between Bill Shankly and the Beatles, there was no difference. They both were doing the right thing for Liverpool. He made sure in football the people got the football, and the Beatles made sure the people in Liverpool got the music. But it's like everything else. When she went out of Liverpool and you said, the greatest memory I've got is winning the cup, the first time in '65. Nobody in this city could ever say to me again, have you ever won the cup, lad? Because we'd won the cup, we won it under Shankly, and he told me to win. go back to the city and wait on a Sunday till we come home. And to me that was just unbelievable. I mean, I'll never forget that. I've passed it on to the kids, that story.
I think what made the Liverpool people love him was that it was easy for him to identify with them, because he was brought up in a mining community among ordinary people, where he was taught that there was an ability about the ordinary person, you know, and that they always had to struggle against a society in order to lift themselves, and they always did it with a dignity. And he recognised in the Liverpool people the same kind of community that he had back in Glenbuck among the miners. This is grandfather Shankly, John Shankly. This was taken obviously in First World War uniform, where he was a sergeant in the Gordon Highlanders. Now, obviously I never knew him like this, but when I knew him, he still had that sort of pert, straight back, upright kind of discipline. When I eventually knew him, I think he'd retired from being a postman, but he taken up the tailoring, you know, and so he was a tailor to trade. Made my first long trousers, as a matter of fact.
Old Johnny, I remember him very well. He had a big moustache and he was very polite spoken. He was a tailor, but he loved his football as well. He did so.
Glenbuck's a small mining village. Yeah. You know, gets its name obviously from the glen of the buck, you know, of the deer, but it was basically just solely there for the purpose of mining. It was virtually a dormitory for miners, with miners' rows and the mine right in the middle of Glenbuck. Small place, but a vibrant community, you know. Every person in the community was an individual. Everyone an individual character. And I've always regarded, people talk about it as being a nursery of football. I think there was more to it than that as far as Glenbuck was concerned. Football, you know the famous saying, it's more important, it's a game, it's more important than life and death. But for these people, it represented something far, far more, something deeper. And in Glenbuck, football became a means, actually, to get away, you know, from the cold face.
Well, the Glenbuck cherry pickers are famous all over. Anybody that knows anything about football knows about the Glenbuck cherry pickers. Their achievements was unreal for the size of the village and the population of the village, which was never any more than 1,200. And they went on and they won honour after honour, and the number of people who went senior and even played for their country, and including the Shanklys, 5 of the brothers, they all went senior. There was over 64 people went senior. Of course, the Shanklys were renowned for their exploits, especially Bill. He was the man that really put them on the map as far as that goes. He was one of the ones that started the cherry pickers away, and he was the secretary of the team, Johnny. Even though he didn't play football himself, he was the man behind it, the cherry pickers. This place, no, he never actually played for the cherry pickers. He went down to Cronbury, which is about 10 miles further on, and he played with the junior football team there, Bill Shankly. He never played for the cherry pickers. Everybody went to this school when they were 5 years of age and stayed here until they were 11. And then they went from there down to Muirkirk to the higher grade. We had the Shanklys. They all went to this school. They all went through it.
And the schoolmaster at that time was a Mr. Kirkwood, and he asked the class what Glenbuck was famous for. He said, "Please, sir, fit ball players and black-faced sheep," which was true. It was famous for that. Some of the black-faced sheep it was supposed to be famous for in that photograph. They belonged to the late Charles Howitson, who owned Glenbuck at that time. Where Bill Shankly was born were next to the schoolhouse, and they had a double house, the Shanklys, yes, because there were 10 of them. There were 5 sisters and 5 brothers, and the boys all played football.
This is the oldest brother, Alec Sandy, right, who played professional football as well, Ayr United, for example. Jimmy, who played with many teams down in England, including Sheffield United. This is Bob, who played with Falkirk, and ultimately he managed the Hibernian and Dundee. In fact, the last time that Dundee won the Scottish League Championship, he was manager, so he was a very successful manager and a wonderful person, I can assure you. This was my Uncle John, known as Higgy, who they often say was the most skillful footballer in the family, and he played in England as well with several teams, including Luton and Portsmouth. And of course there was the baby boy of the family, or not though the youngest in the whole family, because they were a family of 10, 5 sisters, and here's the baby boy, and this is Willie Bill Shankly, because they're 5 brothers and all were professional footballers, and 2 of them reached quite the heights of management level as well. A remarkable family. But at the root of that family, well, these 2, because the characteristics that they all had, they got from here. Oh yeah, well, there is one famous story about him, which might only well be appreciated by people who live in this area. And Glenbuck cherry pickers were due to play Muirkirk in a football match, local time, up at Burnside Park at Glenbuck. Everybody, the teams arrived and the game was ready to start. No referee turned up. That'd be a league match at least. And so they said to my grandfather, the Muirkirk committee went to him and said, "Look, John, there's no referee. We suggest that we play a friendly match." And he said, "There will be no friendly match played here. Muirkirk is no friend of ours." He wouldn't play the match. The strange thing about it, since my grandfather had this sort of competitiveness towards Muirkirk, it's very strange because he married a Muirkirk girl, you know. But he himself wasn't originally from Glenbuck, he was from Douglas. My grandmother, Barbara Blythe, was from Muirkirk. My grandmother was a calm, quiet person who never ever got flustered or flurried about anything. I think having brought up 10 children, you'd have to be a calm type of person. And nowadays, I think women would end up in Valium or something of that nature. But grandmother had this very, very calm attitude towards everything. We shall never swim in the
Didn't matter where you went, she always said, do you know who I am? I'm Liz Shankly, and my brother was Willie. Whenever he visited any of his sisters, I don't know if the same thing happened to brothers, but whenever he visited any of his sisters, there was always a parting gift. Just a wee, by the way, don't tell anybody. It was a backhander. There you are, Liz. Don't you tell anybody. And then there you are, Belle. Don't tell anybody. And he went round the whole of his sisters and gave them something. And that wasn't in the earshot of Jack or Aunt Nessie or anybody. That was a one-to-one thing. He didn't ever want anybody to know that he did that. And I'm sure it would give a lot of people, not just families, money that nobody ever knew about. That was his kindness. And that stemmed from the Glenbuck days, when they didn't have a lot of money, and they shared. If somebody was ill, or if somebody needed coal for their fire, and somebody else had it, they shared that.
The story I want to tell you about the cup final, I was not a season ticket holder in them days. I was trying to get an odd ticket here and there to make sure, not just myself but members of my family. Anyway, it was about 4 days before the cup final and I was at my wit's end how I should get my tickets for Wembley. Anyway, the phone rang in work and it was Bill Shankly, and he asked me to come down to see him. So when I arrived in his office, he showed me all of the goodwill things he'd been getting, but he said, how are you fixed for tickets? I said, well, I haven't got none, Mr. Shankly, because I never called Bill. I held him in such awe, you know. And the next thing is, he said, well, there is two. I said, how much do I owe, Mr. Shankly? He said, £12, they're £6 each. He said, but I'm going to tell you why you got them, you know, Jack. I said, why did I get them, Mr. Shankly? He says, because you never asked for them, and therefore I make sure the people who are good supporters that don't ask get where I can. But really, Bill Shankly didn't know how close I came to actually ringing that day, because I knew time was running out and I was desperate for some tickets.
Man in the middle, and he scored! What a goal! Steve Highway!
He was a man of common sense, and he was not a king Canute. He wouldn't stand on the shoreline and try and push the tide back, you know? Right? He wouldn't do that. But I'm quite sure that when he looked at some of the fees, he would shake his head. He's bound to be up there sitting saying, oh, dear me, there were players played in Glenbuck in the pit bits. He said, right, who would be worth billions of pounds if that fella's worth $1 million.
I don't know whether it's for the good or for the bad, but the game, to my way of thinking, it's getting out of hand with our £1 million players and everything like that. It's just ridiculous. What would some of the old players be worth at the present day? Couldn't you buy them?
You know, I'm quite sure he would regret this incredible increase in apparent value of footballers, because there's something has gone for it. You see, I think he looked upon a football and a footballer. It was a privilege to play football. It was a privilege to play for Liverpool, you know. And I know that he himself, I'm quite sure he would have paid to play as a player at Anfield. I'm certain of that. I know from his background that he would quite willingly have paid to play at Liverpool. And I think he felt that that's how all his players should feel.
You go back when Shankly was playing with Preston North End, the great players they had then. And later on in years as well, they were like in Stanley Matthews, and go back to Finney and Preston and all these fellas. You couldn't buy them. They're just not in the market. You couldn't do it. They're spoiled nowadays. They're spoiled.
And his choice of player is very interesting. He would choose players on the basis of what he learned back home. He learned in life you've got to be determined, especially to rise out of a poor background. He learned there has to be justice in the world for everybody, and he learned integrity. And a player had to be determined, have the guts to go ahead and to push himself, had to do it with integrity and have justice, because he owed something to the people who were paying him, and he owed more to the people who were watching him. So I don't think he would be all that enamoured with these multi-million pound players.
Well, this is where I lived. I lived in here. But Bill, this is the house that Bill left to go to Liverpool. This one here, next door, like through the wall. When I wake up in the mornings, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about Glenbuck. It really saddens me. But when I go back, I can think back to the good days. I can look at a certain sport and I can mind what happened there, and I can see faces that I know there now, that I can see them as if they're still there. Terrible. Breaks your heart. Listen, you know, want to go up and have a look at the hole, the open cast hole? Yeah. Okay. It's a wee walk though. Oh. It's half an hour up and 20 minutes down. See this postcard? It was taken for just there, obviously.
It's almost as if destiny or the world in general is giving us a lesson here, because Glenbuck's whole reason for existence was coal, and yet it was coal which killed the village off finally, because once the coal mines and depth mines they'd shut, then they came along with their huge machines and decided there's so much coal just under the surface. What a wonderful place for open cast coal mining. And so what they've done with the village is they have wiped it off the face of the map.
Who'd like to tackle it with a pick and shovel?
I was brought up to eat, sleep, breathe, talk and live football from the time I was 3 years old. I understand, and I can't remember it, but I understand I was given my first pair of football boots when I was 3 years old. I mean, it was the most natural thing in the world for Shankly and Shankly offsprings to play football. It was taken for granted. And I expected fully to follow a professional football career, but things didn't work out that way. I have cuttings from newspapers which say you'll have to ask Uncle Bob, got a headline there, and many times I learned later that when clubs were interested in me as a youngster, you know, they often contacted my uncles first, and my uncles would say, no, leave the boy alone. He's got a settled career, a steady career, a certain career ahead of him. I look back now, and now that I've retired, the full circle has come round, because football's in it. I can't help it. I'm desperate. When a Friday comes, I'm desperate to go out and kick a ball and play football. I love the competition. I love the camaraderie. You know, I love the humour. You know, and for me, when it comes to Friday and this modest five-a-side game comes about, I may as well be playing at Wembley or at Hamburg, you know, because I come alive on a Friday.
But Glenbuck used to specialise in it. They were renowned for they were fed up. They used to give clocks away and barometers and things. There wasn't that many. And they planned it. The tactics in the five-a-side was terrific. And I think when Bill went to take over the managerial of Liverpool and other bits, they took this with him. And I'm quite convinced he would carry on playing five-a-sides there, because it was a great training idea for training five-a-sides. And I think Bill was quite taken on with it, and he carried on with it, took it away from here as well, you know.
Of course, the thing he did deliver more than anything else for Liverpoolians was, apart from the stadium and success of football teams, was the FA Cup. Because in any event, we'd been told for 70 odd years by Evertonians that we'd never win it. The homecoming was absolutely spectacular. In fact, in this very town hall is where the team were received that night.
I've had my share of bad kicks in my face, but I've come through. I need to go on. We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world.
And I remember reading something about Bill Shankly saying, I'm going to a place where they eat, drink and sleep football. And I thought that was brilliant of Bill Shankly coming to Liverpool, and then we won the cup for the first time. So I think we shut a few Evertonians up then that year.
Fame and fortune and everything that goes with it, I thank you all.
You would see him, you might never see him on television, but we used to see him on television. He was just Bill Shankly from the village. He said that no matter how humble your job, take pride in your work and do it to the best of your ability. Football is not a matter of life or death, it's more important than that.
But it was a good thing that Bob Paisley was a like person, the same type of person, because he knew things were running well. Some person might have come in, a new manager, and wanted to make a clean sweep. Well, Paisley thought like my Uncle Bill, learned from my Uncle Bill, and he saw the wisdom of keeping Liverpool going, just the way Liverpool was. You can't better it, son. That's what my Uncle Bill would probably have said. And the other thing about Liverpool people I've discovered, like mining people, you know, they're not fooled by tinsel. They're not fooled by bull, nor by authority, you know, pretentious authority. They can cut straight through it.
They were his people.
And when he turned around and said, the people, we were the people. Without the people, he didn't have a football club. Without the people going, he didn't have the wages. And he always inbred that the most important person was the supporters.
You know, he literally picked Liverpool up. He come from Huddersfield, some 6 years before. And I remember reading something about Bill Shankly saying, I'm going to a place where they eat, drink and sleep football.
People who go the Cop now or go to matches, you know, it's a mixed relation now. It's mixed. There's people who remember Shankly and people who don't remember Shankly, but we'll get Shankly stories off the old people. Yeah, well, he was a people's man. It just showed when he came down to that, you know, the street party. You know, he was for the people. You know, I don't think any other manager at that time or today will do that sort of thing.
Well, let's face it, Bill put Glenbuck on the map, the same as he did for Liverpool football team. I mean, he kicked you into orbit, and you're still there.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown.
He was born in Barney, Scotland, and he played the football game. He came to Liverpool in '59 to help us win a game. Then with his mighty Red Army, he marched to victory. He was a legend in his time, a hero, Bill Shankly. So I'll say thanks to the Shanks, he'll never walk alone. Let's sing a song for all the well from this his Liverpool home. No matter where you come from, no matter who you are, remember the year of '59 when the Reds, they found a star, and how he shines so brightly for the boys of Liverpool. Soon the world was about to find this man was nobody's fool. So I'll say thanks to the Shanks, he'll never walk alone. Let's sing a song for all the well from this his Liverpool home. The man, he asked no favors, just hard work, let's get it right. You can only succeed through dedication, and his men, they all saw the light. He gave this town his loyalty and proved it all by success. So always remember, when we had Bill Shankly, we all knew that we had the best. So I'll say thanks to the Shanks, he'll never walk alone. Let's sing a song for all the well from this his Liverpool home. Shankly, 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 Shankly.